guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice and I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. If this is the first video you're watching, you are in for a treat, and even if it is not, you are also in for a treat. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of my 6-star reads. These are books that just went beyond 5 stars simply because of how it has impacted my life, probably because I read it at a certain time that it did something to me, probably because I got way too attached to the characters. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best books on planet Earth, but they are the best books for me. So whether you're a new member of the family or you're old and you're like, you know what, Anchal, I want to know which are the books that are like the best books you have ever read, which are your most favorite books ever. These are my most favorite books ever. There are so many books still that I can see around me right now. They are 5-star reads. They are literally amazing. They were some of the best books I have ever read in my entire life, and they've had an impact on my life. But for some reason, these books just stole my heart. Without any further ado, let's just begin the video. We're beginning with my recent 6-star find, which is the Six of Crows duology. It hurts me that these books are not annotated because I really want to annotate them. The Six of Crows duology is the story of a found family, 6 people that come together from very different backgrounds to complete a heist for a very large amount of money. But as you go deeper into the first book, you come to know that it's so much more than the money. The things that they get from the money is invaluable. It is the most emotional things ever. Their pasts, their characters are the most emotional, gut-wrenching, heartwarming characters ever, and that is then continued in the Crooked Kingdom because the stakes become higher, their goals become bigger. That is all I can tell you about the series because that is all I knew when I went into the series, and I want you to go into the series blind if you have not read it. Like, don't know more about it, though I do have a reading vlog on it, so you can go and check it out. The way, even though they come from different backgrounds, but then they turn out to, like, you know, save each other, the connection they build between each other is just all so beautiful. The stakes are so high, which is beautiful. The power grabbing, the politics, everything, every single thing about the series is amazing, which is why it is my 6-star series. Next up, we have Inner Trek by Mohan Ranga Rao. I don't have the book right now with me because I gave it to someone to read because it is one of my most favorite books ever, and I literally want everybody in the world to read it. Inner Trek is the story of a man, and it's a real story of a man, Mohan Ranga Rao, the author himself, who goes to the Himalayas because he was going through a lot of problems, and once those problems are solved, he wants to show gratitude, and so he goes to the mountains and he has recorded all of his experiences. So this is sort of like a memoir and a travelogue, and it is so good. I don't really read travelogues a lot, even though I want to be a traveler in the future, because it gets boring sometimes. I'm not able to connect to the book. It becomes more technical with a lot of like location, place names and all of those things. But this book was not just about the journey to the Himalayas, but also a spiritual journey that Mohan Ranga Rao went through, and it's just so beautiful to read. The kind of feelings I had, the questions I was asking myself, it was beautiful, and it was the first travelogue that I enjoyed so much. I also did get a lot of information about traveling to the Mount Everest and all of those things, so if you're looking for that also will be there. But for me, it's more about the emotional and the spiritual connection which was there, just seeing all of these things through the eyes of a real human being, because this is not fictitious. These things actually happened. There are pictures in the book of all of the locations and things that happened. Seeing all of these real experiences really inspired me. Super duper easy to read, and I loved it. Next up, I'm just going with it. Next up, we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've read 3 books by Emily Henry till now. Book Lovers and Beach Read, they're good books, okay? They're really good books. Book Lovers is definitely 5 stars, but Happy Place is a 6-star read, even though it's marketed as a romance. And yes, there is romance between Harriet and Wynne. They got together, but then they have separated since 6 months, but they go on a vacation with their other 4 friends. So these 6 people are there, but they cannot tell their friends that they have separated due to some reasons which you will come to know when you read the book. And their valid reasons, because I was like, why can't you tell the bestest friends of your life that you have separated? They're all romance tropes, and you would expect ki, oh yeah, it's a nice book and oh, it's a nice romance book, but once you read it, you realize it is just so much more than that. Once more, it's found family, so all of these characters coming together from different backgrounds, so you get to see their past also and all of the things that they struggle with, and it's just too real. It's so real. Harriet's character is literally me in so many places, and once you get so attached to the characters, it's just too difficult to not love the entire book. But along with that, the romance between the two characters, even though there was miscommunication, it was totally valid, and their character arcs and the ending and the vibes, the summer vibes, the meaning of the name of the book, which is Happy Place, it is all so good, so perfect. This is the best book ever. Next up, we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and we actually have Circe by Madeline Miller. Let me talk about them together, because if I don't talk about all of these books in a certain way, this video is going to be 2 hours long, and I don't want that. I bought them because they were pretty and I wanted to read them because they're popular, but I love them because they are literally the best books in the whole world. Song of Achilles is the story of Achilles and Patroclus, two people who in the past have been known as, oh, we're the bestest friends ever, and their companionship is very popular. But Madeline Miller says that it was actually more than the companionship and friendship, it was love, and you get to explore their love story in this book, and it's literally the most beautiful love story ever. But more than that, the way Madeline Miller has written this book is what has sort of immortalized them in my mind. Even now, I can sometimes just like on the basis of my annotations open the book, read some quotes, and it rips my heart every single time I read anything from the book. It's so beautifully written, so lyrically written. Even though it's Greek mythology, it is easy to read, it's perfect. And then we have Circe, which is the story of Circe herself, which again, Circe has been immortalized in my mind through the writing of Madeline Miller. She is such a good writer. Another very lyrically written book of a woman. Because of all of the things that is happening, she does something because of which then she is banished from her homeland. You see her, how her love for mortals and her herself being a goddess, how it combines together. You see that all of the bashing that she has endured since she was a child, what happens with it. You see her being scared in so many places and still just doing the things that she really wants to do, and in the end it's just such a beautiful story. The ending is mind-blowing. This is more of a character-driven story, but again, because of the writing and because of Circe herself, because of the kind of character she is, you love the book so much. Next, we have The Boy in Stripped Pajamas by John Boyne. This is the story of a boy who has to shift without any prior news because his dad's job is taking them to a different place, and then once they move out and they go into the new place, our main character really likes adventures and he wants to make new friends, so he just goes through the trees and the forest and he finds this boy in striped pajamas. But the boy in the striped pajamas is behind wires. However, they do develop a connection, and then you see what happens about the connection. Now the thing is that this book is set in the World War II times. It is said from the perspective of a child who is 9 or 8 years old. There are so many intense things that Bruno just does not know, so you get to encounter it from the perspective of a 9-year-old, and it does not seem serious, but you as an adult will realize that this is serious stuff, and it is heart-wrenching. The ending, it still haunts me. I was not able to sleep for 2 days after the ending. I watched the movie is also not bad. Again, did not sleep for 2 days. I made my friend also, Himalaya, also watch the movie. He was also like completely traumatized. It is a very sad book, it is a traumatizing book, so please do look up the trigger warnings, but it is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. It is more than what I expected. The characters, the way it's been written, the innocence in the writing, but the tension and the intensity and the cruelty of what all was happening during that time has been written so beautifully. It was crazy, but awesome. Next, we have another romance, The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. This is the story of two writers who wrote a book and they were at the peak of their career, but then they separated for some reasons, but then they did have one final contract to give out one more book. So they have to come together in a forced proximity, like in one place, to write the book together. And nobody is reading the books that they write separately. So they do have to do this because of the commitment. But but then you get to see why they separated from each other and how they have so much of pent up anger which is coming through their writing in the book that they have written. This book, the pacing was the best part of the book. It was neither very fast that I was like, oh my god, what is, like, so much is happening. It was not like a thriller, but it was also not very slow where, oh, I'm just reading about what is happening or I'm just reading about the characters. The pacing was beautiful, a beautiful amalgamation of the past, of the present. It also has a dual POV, so you get to get into the head of both characters, and you guys know I love different POVs. I think this was the first adult romance where I did not think that they're dumb. I had not read Happy Place at that time. Even in that, I don't think they're dumb, but this one was, I was reading so many books where adults were behaving like stupid people, and I don't like that, but in this one they weren't. Their love and the way the book has been written, again, very poetically written. The angst, the heat that writers bring into the picture, because they can write those things, the beautiful lines, is just so good. So in all, it was amazing. Enemies to lovers, loved it. Next we have a YA teenage book, and we have Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is the bestest book ever. I think this is the first Alice Oseman book I read, and I was shocked to my core that books can make me feel this way. This is the story of Frances, who has her life completely sorted out. She knows what she wants from her future, until she meets the creator of a very underrated podcast, which is one of the best, like one of her favorite podcasts. Everything is completely messed up after that, and she has to cope with it, and then we see the life of the podcast creator, and we see the life of other characters too, and that is something that Alice Oseman does so well. There will be so many characters and so many things happening at once, but it does not feel overwhelming at all, and all of the stories connect together. This is the story of friendship, this is the story of other relationships, of finding yourself, of accepting yourself, of sexuality, everything in one. It was also a very intense read, like it was emotionally intense, which again, I love it so much, but the ending was super warm. So in the end, I just loved this book so much. The characters will always stay with me. Next up, we have Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, translated by Anton Her. This is definitely a 6-star. It's more than 6 stars sometimes with some stories. It is a collection of short stories, and it's a genre defying book, which means no particular genre. It has horror, it has sci-fi, it has magical realism, crazy things happening. And the reason this book is a 6-star is because I just can't believe that you can write something so bizarre, so crazy, so unrealistic, so fictitious, but at the same time write a book that has never been written before and make it make sense, because it also talks about some of the institutions of our society, like patriarchy, and you can see that, like, how do you do that? This was such an exceptional read. You cannot read it as a beginner because it will not make sense to you, but if you are an avid reader and you want to read something completely crazy, and you like reading stories where you have to read between the lines and they also depict our reality along with being completely fictitious, and you like bizarre things, disgusting things, then this is definitely your book. It will be the best book you ever read. I still think about some of these stories and I'm just mind blown. My mind is always blown because of this book. Next up, we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. This, oh god, once again, the characters, they are grey, and you see they are not the perfect people in the world, and that is what makes this book the best. Cleopatra and Frankenstein find a connection in their first meet itself, and within 6 months they are married, and then you see how their marriage is affecting the people around them, their friends and their family, and how it is affecting Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I have a video where I've talked about it in so much detail because I love it so much, and I can't give all of the details in this video, but I'll link it in the description. You can go and check it out. It just tackles so many themes of like mental health and other things. Characters are great, and you see the character arc, where they started, where they ended, and it's not always a happy ending, but the way every character ended up was really good. Like, it was perfect. I think the ending is what matters the most in books like these, because it is a very slow read, it is literary fiction, I think. It's so character driven, it's not plot driven. Like, you're just reading it because you love the characters or you hate the characters, because you want to know what is going to happen to the characters. So it's very difficult to keep reading and then find out that the ending was not good, but that is not what happens with this. If you liked a little life a little bit, then you will enjoy this book a lot. If you like normal people, you will enjoy this book a lot. Next we have Almond, which I've talked about so much. It was the best read of 2022. I got this book not because I wanted to make a video on it. I got it because I just wanted to read a book for myself, and it's young adult and YA, the teenage books, one of my most favorite genres ever. But this book did so much more to me than I expected it to do. I was just hoping for a good story, because this is the story of a boy who is born with a condition where he is not able to feel any emotions and express any emotions at all, and then his mother and his grandmother, they're killed in front of his eyes, and you just see him standing there and watching them, and you see what happens after that. Because the concept is so interesting, I started reading the book. It just made me realize the importance of ordinary life, and how ordinary life is actually the most extraordinary thing in the world. We keep chasing extraordinary, but what about the ordinary? So it was just so beautiful to see our main character's journey, who's not able to feel anything, to what happens to him in the end. And the end, oh god, it was so good. This is a must read. I don't care even if you don't read books, like, this is a must read. Next up we have The Wrath and Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is another book I got for myself and not for a video. Honestly, I have not even seen it in a lot of places, but I saw this one quote from the book and I was like, you know what, it sounds like something I can read. And I saw like the description of the book after seeing the quote, and I was like, oh, I really want to read it. So I got it, and it was quite expensive when I got it. But I was just like, with this and with Almond, I was like, I don't care how expensive it is. These are books that I really want to read, and they feel like something I want to read. And I was just going through this phase where I was not enjoying reading, so I just invested in it, made a whole thing out of it. I waited for 2 days for this book to arrive, and then it arrived, and I opened it properly for myself. And then at night I was sitting and I was reading the book. And this is an enemies to lovers, where the main guy, who is a king, I don't know if you call it dystopian or fantasy, no, it is fantasy. The king kills every queen, so he gets married to a new woman, and then he kills her the next day in the dawn. And then you have the main character who has lost her best friend because she became one of the wives of the king, so she volunteers to become his wife so that she can kill him and take revenge. So clearly they both want to kill each other, but then they obviously fall in love because it's an enemies to lovers. Like, that's what the story is. I love it. I love it from the core. Like, I love it from every cell of my body. It was because, I don't know if it is because it was king and queens involved, or if it was because, oh, it's old time or old school. I don't know what it was, but it was the most beautiful book I have read in a very long time. After this, I've not gotten one book where the romance is like this, and I'm so sad, because I really want romance like this, that old school talking to each other with some other level of respect, and that sort of enmity turning into love is just so good, where it does not seem too forced and it also does not seem too young. So good. Which is crazy though, I think, because this is why I think they're both young adults, they're not adults. Whatever it is, it was just so good. The second book also is really good, but this one was just out of the world. And talking about other series where I enjoyed one book the most, we have Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the part of the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and as much as I liked the other two books, this second book was my most favorite book ever, because in this, Pippa is still the way she is in the first book, but it also gets really intense and really dark the way it is in the last book. In the last book, Pippa changes, the character changes, and I don't like that, which is why that is not a 5-star read. And in the first book, it was just a little light for me, which is why it's not a 6-star, but this one was the perfect amalgamation. This entire series itself is like 5-6 stars for me, but this one was the best one. And then we have The Secret of Nagas by Amish, which is part of the Shiva trilogy. And again, the two books, the last one was a little too long for me. The first book was the first book, so it was build up and it was good, but this one was just way too good. The pacing was amazing. It was actually quite thrilling, which you don't expect a mythological book to be like that. And the mysteries and all of the revelations and everything that was happening, it was so insanely good. The Shiva trilogy is basically the story of Shiva, who just wants to save his people, but then he gets into something so much more bigger than that, and he is the chosen one and he becomes the Nilkant. I have a vlog on this, so you can go and check it out for like the entire story and everything. When he becomes the Nilkant, things again become bigger than they were, and you see what happens after that and how he actually has to define who is good and who is bad and kill the bad, and becomes like this amazing story. The entire trilogy is amazing, but this one was the best book. Next up we have a YA romance, Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. This is the story of two people, I forgot their name, great, it's a 6-star read, I'm really not supposed to forget their name. Jamie and Maya, yes, Jamie and Maya, where Jamie is really shy. He wants to be someone who brings changes to the society, so he wants to get into politics, but because he is so shy and he's not able to talk to people and he's had really horrible experiences, he's like, oh my god, that is never going to happen. And then we have, again I forgot her name, Maya, why am I forgetting the name? Maya, who is dealing with the divorce of her parents and she hates change and now she has to deal with it. But they both come together and then they both go through their own shit together. I am not saying that it is the best book ever written and it's the best literary piece ever or whatever it is, but the characters were just so adorable. I could not stop reading the book at all, and I have cried in so many places. So basically I loved the characters so much. Even the ending, it was not sort of like an unrealistic ending where, oh, it's a happy ending, oh yeah, everything turns out to be amazing all the time, because that is not what happens. But the kind of hope it leaves you with is beautiful. It was an underrated book in my mind, so I just got the paperback version because it was just so cheap, but the book is just so good. I invested a lot of money in getting the hardback of it. One of the best cutest books ever. If you like YA, if you're a teenager and you want to read a love story, this is your book. Read it and cry. Next we have The Force of Enchantments by Chitra Banerjee Divakarani. I was gonna say Divya Banerjee Chitra Banerjee Divakarani. This is the story, the retelling of Ramayana from the perspective of Sita, who was the main woman in Ramayana. It was such a mind-blowing read. She has also written Palace of Illusions, but I like this one more than that because of Sita and because of her power of endurance and because of how you look at things so differently that happened in Ramayana once you look at it from the perspective of Sita. Now obviously this is fictitious, but it was so empowering. It was just so beautifully written. Obviously the cover is just insanely beautiful, and as soon as I look at the book, I am transported back into that time. Best book ever. So if you want to start with mythology and you want to read like a woman-centric book, then this is your book. You cannot miss out on this one, no matter what. It's just so nice, so beautiful. Then we have another thriller, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaela. So sorry for butchering the name. This is a story of a woman who shoots her husband and then she goes silent, and she is a silent patient, and then she is admitted into a psych ward where she meets a therapist, and now that therapist is supposed to help her to speak again, and you see what happens after that. Why did she kill her husband? Why has she gone silent? This book was so good. I actually read it in conditions where you can't actually read because the light was not there and everybody was sleeping, like everybody was snoring around me, and I was reading this book because you cannot keep it down. And I did have many other experiences after this also, where the plot twist in the end was just like completely crazy, but this was one of the first books. This and Behind Her Eyes. Where is Behind Her Eyes? That is a 6-star read. Completely forgot to take it out. Behind Her Eyes is another 6-star read for me. These books just were like the first books where the ending completely boggled my mind, which is why they're 6-star reads. It's a must read thriller. And another thriller, but this is more like a dark book, is Gillian Flynn's Sharp Objects. This, I won't call it a thriller because it was slow paced. Honestly, there was nothing thrilling about it, but this is a dark book, and it's dark in a way nothing is dark ever. I've not read a darker book. Like reading Lisa Jewell books, it's coming close to this one because even she talks about really dark things. This one, like I was completely detached from the characters. I was not rooting for any character. I did not like any character, nothing at all. It was just so dark and disgusting. It was so dark and disgusting. And it was sort of like my introduction to this dark, disgusting world, and I loved every minute of it. Do read the trigger warnings for this one because there are like a lot of crazy triggers, but it is definitely one of the best books I ever read, and it's going to be the closest to my heart. I love Gone Girl and I love Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, but this one is the best one. Next we have a classic, and we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is the story of 4 little women and their mother, and they're just like living in a cottage. I mean, that's how I picture it. And their father is out there on the boundary fighting for their country, and we see the journey of these little 4 women. This book, I was supposed to read it in school also, but I did not because I couldn't care less. And I think that's what happened so many times in school with classics, where because it was a mandated read, like Pride and Prejudice, I read it in school and I did not remember anything. And then as I grew up, I watched the movie and I was like, oh my god, this is my most favorite thing ever. So after growing up, when I have read it now, I can see so many things better. And the journey of these 4 little women and their mother, it goes through ups and downs and all the horrible things that happens with them, but also the amazing things and the discrimination at that time against women, but also how they overcome it. And they're so empowering and they're so emotional and they're so beautiful and they're so smart, and it's all just so good. This is definitely a comfort read, and I am reading this book this year during winters. A non-negotiable, no-brainer. During winters, I'm getting a hot chocolate and I'm getting into my blanket and I'm reading this one, because you just have to read it like that. I cannot believe I've not talked about this book till now, but it was just like so buried into the thing. We have Olivia Blake's Alone with You in the Ether, which is a recent read. Like, I read it this year only. It's one of the best books I've ever read. I can't even talk when I think about this book because I love this book so much. And Olivia Blake is literally my goddess after this book. It is the story of 2 people coming together, falling in love with each other. That is like obvious, but the 2 people, you get deeper into their mind, and they both have mental health problems. See how they hold themselves back because of these problems, because they feel like they don't deserve love, but the way they just connect with each other is just so beautiful. I don't know what to say, just read it. I really thought that in today's video my thoughts will be better articulated when it comes to this book, but it's not, because I'm just speechless when it comes to this book. I cry when I think about this book. Some things that have been written, like some paragraphs, it's imprinted in my brain and my soul, and it's literally like, it's everything. You have to read. I love it. I love it so much. Next we have 40 Rules of Love, which is an oldie. If you have subscribed to the channel since a long time, you will know that this book is just like one of my most favorites ever. It is a story of Ella, who's a 40-year-old, I think, literary agent, and she starts reading a book and she has fallen out of love with her life. But once she starts reading the book and she reads the story of Rumi and Shams of Tabriz, and she connects with the author, I guess, everything changes in her life. And the 40 Rules of Love are something that I live by. I think I've not read this book since so long. I have sort of forgotten things, so I'm gonna reread it actually, probably this week only now. It's spiritual and it has like this Sufi environment, like a Sufi ambience to it. It's a little difficult to read because it's literary fiction and there are just so many POVs that you're like, oh my god, what is happening? As time passed, I fell so in love with the 40 Rules of Love and everything that happened and the way it impacted my life that it became a 6-star, more than 6 stars book for me, so do check it out. Then we have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This has become one of my most favorite Agatha Christie books ever, and that is all I will say for this one, because you can't explain why you love it, because then I'll give something away. But this is my most read Agatha Christie book ever. Then we have Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is the story of a couple that goes to a cabin to celebrate the 10-year relationship anniversary, but secrets start to spill out and things are not as simple. Lies start getting revealed. The ending is like, I remember in the middle of the book I was like, what is going on, and my mind was totally annoyed, and I also had some theories, but the ending, this another must read as a thriller. Then we have 7 Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my favorite TJR book. Got me out of a slump. I've talked so much about this book, but it's never enough. It is basically the story of the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Evelyn Hugo in herself is such a majestic character that she stays with you forever, and you see what happens with the 7 husbands, which is not as crazy or as undetached as you would think it is, and it is one of the most emotional, thrilling, amazing books ever. ever. It was a roller coaster and I loved it. At the end we have Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. The second book is probably a 4-star or 5-star, but the first book is a 6-star. One of my most favorite books ever. I read this book in the morning because I couldn't sleep, and I got this book for like 80 rupees from the Flipkart sale, but it just turned out to be something just... This is the story of Aristotle and Dante, who are two little boys, two teenagers, and they meet each other and they're so different from each other, but you see how they fall in love with each other. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. These were all my 6-star reads. I don't know, 26, 27, 28 books that are pieces of my heart. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm so sorry if the video is too long, because I'm pretty sure that while I'm editing this video, I'm going to try and make it short. But even then, these are a lot of books, so if the video is long, I am so sorry. But I hope you got at least one book recommendation for yourself. I'll see you guys very soon.